How do you do? World War II veterans are an endangered species that cannot be replaced. The man in this story is one of them. He spent 3.5 years fighting battles from North Africa to Germany itself. When the war ended, the fighting continued with a different enemy because his heart and mind and life were unshackled.
I was born on the south side of Chicago and grew up in Cicero, the youngest of 3 brothers and a sister. Dad was an alcoholic, and my earliest recollections are of Mom taking me with her on a bus to look for him in the bars where he hung out.
Whatever you do, Chuck, don't become a drunkard when you grow up. I hate to take you in this place, but we have to find your daddy before he spends all his paycheck on liquor. Now hold your nose. The smell is terrible.
My father died a drunkard's death when I was still very young, and I cannot even remember his first name. We never had any contacts with his extended family throughout my life. Mom worked hard and raised us the best she could. Cicero was filled with a lot of gangland activity during the 20s. Prohibition was on, and the Al Capone gang competed for territory with the Bugs Moran gang. My older brothers knew more about this than I did because they ran errands for Capone's gang.
Wow! Have you heard the news, Ma?
No? What's going on?
You know that restaurant 2 streets over? The Italian one?
Yeah, what about it?
A car just drove by and shot through the front window with machine guns.
That's awful. It's not even safe to eat in restaurants now.
They said it was the Bugs Moran gang trying to get Al Capone. He was in there, too, eating lunch.
Now you boys, be careful out there on the street. Stay away from those men. They're bootleggers and hoodlums.
This encounter would soon be the catalyst to the famous St. Valentine's Day massacre. Mom remarried while I was in high school. Outside our apartment building, some important-looking men in suits parked their cars while they did business. They paid us to wash and look after their cars. This was the early 30s during the Depression, when jobs were hard to find and we needed the money. We all worked to help Mom with expenses, but my older brother felt that we were in danger.
Chuck, what do you think you're doing?
Washing cars for the guys with the nice suits.
Don't you know who they are?
Just guys in good-looking suits who pay us for taking care of their cars. They're friendly, and they have some kind of business meeting in that building.
Those are Al Capone's men.
Honest?
Yeah. You tell them you can't work for them anymore, you hear?
But we need the money.
You heard me. Go on, get out of here.
Even though my brother did errands for the gangs, he didn't want me involved, so I stopped showing up for work after that. I was a junior when I noticed Eleanor, who was a beauty, but it took a while before I approached her.
Hi, Chuck.
Hey, Eleanor. We have the same last name, Svoboda.
I know. A friend of mine pointed that out.
I noticed you in English class.
Svoboda is a common last name. It means freedom in Czech and Russian.
Yeah, cool, huh? Are you going steady with anyone?
Yes. I've been going out with Speedy.
Well, you can tell Speedy to get lost. You're gonna be my girlfriend now. How's that? That seemed to be all right with Eleanor, and we dated the last year of high school. I graduated and went to work in a factory making cans. During that time, my mom changed drastically.
Well, I've been going to that Bible church in town, Chuck.
I know, Mom. You act so differently.
God has changed me, son. I love him and the people at the church.
I'm glad you're happy, Mom.
Why don't you go with me this morning?
Mom, you know that's not for me.
You'd really like this church, son. They're very bold about their faith.
I know about their reputation firsthand, and I don't like it one bit.
Why not?
They put men on all 4 street corners at 22nd and Laramie, and they hand out pamphlets. You can't get away from them.
What's wrong with that?
Sometimes they even talk to people as they walk away. They ask if you're saved.
Well, good for them.
What's good about that? I have to face them every day.
They're trying to help people to give their lives to Jesus, Chuck.
They can keep their religion to themselves. I don't want any part of it. But Mom persisted, as mothers do, and even prayed for me. In the summer, that church put up a tent and held revival meetings, and Mom urged me to go and hear some evangelists they'd brought in just for the occasion. To stop her from asking me again, I finally agreed to go, once, if Eleanor could go with me. Listen, would you go with me to the revival at my mom's church? She pestered me to death, so I said I'd go once.
Sure, let's go tomorrow night.
When we got to the tent that night, it was crowded. The band was playing and the people were singing. I didn't see an empty seat under the canvas, but a guy at the end of the aisle motioned to us. 2 seats were available in the front row. As we sat down, I murmured to Eleanor, "We're doomed," but the sermon hit home for both of us. Hand in hand, each of us filled with conviction, we went to the altar to put our trust in the living Christ. We began attending the Cicero Bible Church with Mom, and a few months later we married. And since we both had the same last name, her name didn't change. We were the Svobodas. That was 1941, and 6 weeks later I was drafted. I passed the physical and soon boarded a train with other Chicago boys for training in Texas. By then, we had declared war on Japan and Germany. We shipped to North Africa under General Patton's command and moved around a lot, fighting or marching in one place or another. Then in January 1944, we stormed the Anzio beachhead. The German army's big guns kept us pinned down in the trenches for 5 months. It was devastating.
Whoosh! Anzio, Annie!
What's worse, living like a rat in this trench or being blown to bits by that gun?
No wonder that guy went crazy. This is just like the last war.
Look, the truck stopped right there in the open, and it's full of ammo.
Yeah, where's the driver?
He took off running. The last shell almost hit him.
Oh, if another one hits that ammo, we're dead. Where you going, Chuck?
I gotta drive it away from us!
I jumped in the amphibian that was abandoned just a few yards from my hole in the ground and drove it as far away from our living quarters as I could. When we first dug our trenches, we didn't know we would be there for 5 months. One night, we found a long sewer pipe and used it to communicate with each other. Once, I threw a snake out of my hole. Finally, after 5 long months in the trenches, the enemy was pushed back by our soldiers, and we moved inland. By then, I was a sergeant and responsible for a platoon of men. Our group was ordered to liberate Rome, and after the enemy was driven out, we occupied the city. From there, we went to Mannheim, Germany, but the war was winding down by then. From Germany, they transferred us to Dakar, Africa, then to Casablanca for 10 days of R&R. Then we flew to Florida. It was wonderful to be back on American soil.
I'm so glad to see you.
Me too. There were times when I didn't know if I'd ever see you again.
God is faithful, honey.
Yes, he is.
Look at you. What are these medals?
This is a silver battle star, this is a bronze battle star, and this is a bronze service arrowhead.
My baby brother, a hero. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Don't be. The guys who died are the real heroes. And there were lots of them.
It must have been horrible.
Anzio was a nightmare, Eleanor. I still have ringing in my ears from the bombardment. Eleanor had been involved with Bible classes and other biblical endeavors in my absence. It was an honor to have a wife so dedicated to the things of God. 2 years after my discharge, a friend of mine from the Army told me about a new Bible school in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was already registered, so I did too, and moved my family there. We had a baby daughter by then. After I graduated in 1952, I assisted the school's president and taught certain books of the Bible. Then came a new opportunity.
Who was that on the phone?
Dr. Billy McCarroll?
From the Bible church back home?
Yes, he wants me to be a missionary.
A missionary? Where?
At home, he wants me to move to Cicero and help start more churches.
Well, what did you tell him?
That I'd pray about it? What do you think?
Our family is growing and we don't have a place to live there.
Well, the church has an apartment in Cicero, and we can live there, he said, as a home missionary church planter.
Oh, that would be fantastic, Chuck. Being close to family again.
He said I have a lot of spizzerinkum spunk, I guess. After we moved to Cicero, the church sent me out to teach Bible studies in remote areas. As the studies grew to around 50 people, we would try to organize a church. In 10 years, we planted many churches, a dozen of which are still going strong. Our ministry was small, but little is much if the Lord is in it. Finally, I accepted a call to go back to the Bible school in Grand Rapids. One day, the president called me into his office.
Chuck, there's a church not too far from us that's having problems, some kind of a conflict, and the congregation is divided. With your experience and background, I thought maybe you could help them. Maybe you could make an appointment with the pastor, meet the deacon board and congregation, and help them resolve things. Can you do that?
I'll see what I can do. That's how our ministry began. We sent letters to folks from our church planting days and also to those familiar with our mediation. Support came in to establish this unique ministry of counseling churches, preparing pastors for the work, and Bible studies. We started in 1972 and we're still going strong. 20 years ago, when I turned 70, I began training a younger man to replace me. Then in 1999, Eleanor was diagnosed with cancer. She had surgery followed by chemotherapy and was cancer-free for several years, but it returned. The firefighters miss your cheesecake, honey.
I won't be baking anymore, Chuck. I think those days are over.
Remember what the Lord says, honey. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?
It isn't too hard for him, but it is for me. I'm ready to go home if that's his will. I'm 83 and I've had a good life.
Heaven is our home, but I don't want to lose you.
It's only for a little while, just a temporary separation.
My beloved Eleanor went to heaven in 2003. But one day we'll be together again. At the age of 90, I still go to the ministry office when I can to help counsel on the phone with churches and pastors that need encouragement. One of my favorite verses is Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not.